Okay, so as we have completed everything in EIGRP, few things are remaining. Only two topic, which is
Okay.
default route propagation inside EIGRP network, and second one is EIGRP bandwidth utilization. Okay, we'll see this one.
Okay.
So first understand this lab. Okay, now what we have to understand here in this lab, suppose you have one EIGRP network. You have one EIGRP network here. This is your EIGRP network, this one. Okay, understand, this is a situation based lab, and here your
Okay.
router 1 is communicating to router 2, your router 1 is communicating to R3, and your R3 have some network here. Okay, now what is happening here, this is your EIGRP network is working, these are your branch routers and everything. Now your edge router is connected with ISP, internet service provider. So here your edge router is using one public IP, this is your public IP. So internet is working here on your edge router, but internet, you want to run internet here inside your organization in these systems, right? So
Okay.
how you are going to enable those internet here? Now you will say, okay, R1 has configured default routes towards ISP. So R2, if R2 will also configure default route, R3 will also configure default route, no problem, internet will run. But the problem will, what will be the problem? Then your EIGRP, what is the use of EIGRP then? Then there
Okay.
will be no route manipulation, there will be no traffic manipulations. Okay, so inside your organization, if you are using EIGRP and you want to access internet, so you have multiple things to be configured. Okay, and see one by one, okay, what we are configuring here. Okay,
Okay.
so now we are going to take one lab here. This is the lab. Okay, so we are going to start this lab.
Okay.
So here ISP is not your part, ISP is already pre-configured, right? But I want to show you
Yes.
what I have connected in ISP. Okay,
Okay.
so ISP, what I have configured, that I on ISP router you will see that internet is working. I can show you here. Let me take the console here. If I'm coming to ISP router, see, ISP router is getting DHCP IP. Okay, and if you are coming here, and if ISP router is trying to ping google.com, okay, you can see is pinging to Google, means this ISP router is pinging to google.com. Even ping to yahoo.com. Okay, ping to youtube.com. Okay, so here everything is working. Okay, so when your router is connected, your R1, if your R1 is connected, okay, so if you have here, so see here, so IP interface brief exclude unassigned. Your R1 has this is a public IP address, and inside your network you have some private IP addresses. Okay, but if
Okay.
R1 is connected to ISP, but if R1 is trying to communicate to google.com, you will see that R1 is not able to connect to google.com.
Yes.
Yes, now what R1 will do? Okay, so first we will check something like, so IP protocol, do our EIGRP is working? No. So let's configure EIGRP first. Conft router EIGRP 10 no auto, and then network, we will be advertising our network network 12.1.1.0, then network 13.1.1.0, and then exit. You'll see here, so IP route. You have some EIGRP routes you with your neighbor. Means now your router 1, router 2, and router 3 EIGRP is working. Okay, no problem here, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now but R1 situation is different. R1 wants to communicate to Google. R1 is trying to communicate first to google.com. No communication problem. So now what R1 is going to configure? You as an administrator, what you will configure on R1? So normally, as I told you when we have learned about default routing, so default routings are used for ISP connectivity, right? So here you will
Yes.
come here, and before that if you will check here, so IP route, you do not have any default route, so you will come here and configure default route towards ISP. So IP route default and your ISP IP address. So your ISP IP address is, if you will come here, check, so IP interface brief exclude unassigned. So your ISP IP address is 12.122.111. So I'll come here to R1. I will write here 122.1.1. And now if you check here, route is there for ISP, right?
Okay.
Okay, but still if you'll try to ping, okay, now see here, R1 is trying to see, R1 is pinging, right? But here you
Yes.
have to configure some DNS, okay. But if it is working, it's okay. If your pinging will not work, maybe if I'll say that youtube.com, okay, see is pinging. But if it will not ping, so you have to configure something like IP domain lookup.
Okay.
Means you do not have DNS here, right? So
Yes.
we will configure here to say that I want to use ISP DNS. It's only two command, 8.8.8.8. That's it. Okay. And now if you ping whatever, so see now what is happening here. Your ISP is already there. So your R1 is able to communicate to internet. Let's see R2 and R3. Do R2 and R3 is also able to communicate to Google?
Okay.
Ping google.com. Ping 8.8.8.8. No communication, right? Now what
Yes.
you have to configure? So what you have to here on R1 you have to configure NAT.
Okay.
Okay. And which NAT? NAT-PAT. Okay. We'll
Okay.
have separate session of this NAT-PAT. Okay, but it's a part of EIGRP, so let's work on that. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to come to R1 and we have to say conf t. Okay, we have two interface, E0 by 1 and E0 by 2, right? So we'll come here,
Yes.
interface range E0 slash 1 dash 2, right? IP
Okay.
NAT inside, exit. Okay, first you have to run this command like this, interface this IP NAT inside and exit. Then you have one more interface, interface E0 by 0, which is public this interface which is connected to ISP, okay. And here you have to write
Okay.
IP NAT outside means inside. Whatever IP is coming from my inside network, please translate on this public IP address, right? Why? Because my private IP address is not reachable to internet, but my public is authorized to reach internet, right? So whatever IP
Yes.
is coming from your inside network, those IP will be converted to public and then it will reach to internet, right?
Okay.
Okay. So here is done now, and then exit. Then you have to configure access list. So you just simply say that access list 1 permit. You can permit your 12, 13, 192 whatever network, but if you say any means whatever inside network, translate it, and then you enable NAT. See, right, IP NAT inside source list access list 1 interface E0 by 0 overload means whatever internet is means whatever data is coming to on this interface E0 by 0, translate all incoming IP to this public IP address, and this public IP address is reachable to internet, and then they will access it.
Okay.
Okay, after that what you have to configure now, you have to come to router 2. On router 2 also you have to configure this DNS option, this IP domain lookup, and then IP name server 8.8.8.8. Same thing you have to configure on R3, and then okay. And now again, if R1, if you'll check here on R1, see, R1 is pinging to google.com, right? No problem in R1. Even R1 is
Yes.
trying to ping from 1.1.1, which is the part of EIGRP. See this IP, this is also LAN, right?
Okay.
Okay, so if it is coming here, ping google.com with the source loopback 1, it's pinging. Now if you are coming to your R2, ping google.com. See, still no
Did you
communication.
configure EIGRP
Yeah, EIGRP is already there. I can show you.
in,
That's why
in
they are not.
R1?
Yes, so
Okay.
IP EIGRP neighbor. Okay, see 13.1. Okay, if you are coming to R2, sorry, R1 and checking here, so IP EIGRP neighbor. So IP EIGRP neighbor. Okay, see, neighbor is there, and even if you check the
We are one.
okay, even if you check here, so IP route. Okay, yes, EIGRP D is there. Okay, 192.168. Why 192 is not there? R3. So IP route. So IP interface brief. Okay, 13. Okay, so let me configure this address. Conft interface E0 slash 1 IP address 192.168.10.255.255.255.0, no shut, and then save. Okay, now if you are coming on R1, checking, so IP route, yes, see, route is coming here. Okay, so R1
Okay.
problem is here, R1 is communicating to ISP. Okay, R2, earlier R2 was not able to communicate, and we configured NAT. After NAT also, see, R2
Yes.
is not communicating. Now what is the problem? You said the after NAT it will communicate. Now see, if you are coming on R1 and check the routing table, right? See, this thing is very important. People don't
Okay.
see this one. People always see this link, this one. Okay, gateway of
Okay.
last resort. Okay, means if route, if there is no path in the routing table, if there is path in the routing table, I will follow this path, right? But if there is
Okay.
no path in the routing table, I will follow this. Means he's saying that if I
Okay.
want to reach any network except this network, I will send packet to this IP, right?
One people. Yes.
Yes, but do you have this in the so IP route? Do you have this in the R2 and R3? Means
No, it's
whatever
not
is
set.
there in your routing table, you can only reach to those networks. You cannot reach to these networks. We like apart from these network, what is there in the list? Means R2 and
Okay.
R3 can only reach to those network which is there in the routing table. See, but no gateway is set. To set gateway on R1, what you have to do after configuring NAT also, it will not work. So you have to
Yes.
tell your neighbor, like see interface range E0/1 and 2. Okay, then you have to write here IP summary address Eigrp 10. Okay, and you have to inform some default routes to your neighbor and then exit. Okay, and now if you are coming to your neighbor R2 and R3, see here, so IP route, can you see here, can you see some default route?
Okay.
Okay, and here also if you'll check, okay, see, default route is there, see, and on R2 also you will get default route, can you see here? And now
Yes.
whenever R2, now when now R2 is trying to ping, see, R2 is able to reach Google, R3 is able to reach Google. Okay, and now these PC, okay, if this PC is trying to ping google.com, DNS is not there, how to set DNS? No problem, we can come and check here.
Okay.
But now you can see this R2 and R3, R2
Yes.
and R3 is also one router, right? Okay,
Yes.
and now when they will try to access, now they are able to access internet. R3 is also able to access internet. Ping yahoo.com. They are pinging. So what we have configured, see, let me tell you first, let me arrange this one first. I see, right, by default ISP is not there, so for ISP what I have taken one router as a NAT router. This is your ISP router.
Okay.
Okay, this NAT router is ISP router. Okay, so whenever you will take
Okay.
this NAT router, automatically you will have your internet. Okay,
Okay.
after that, on ISP router we have configured interface, and see the ISP configuration is here. Okay,
Yes, I
so
see.
ISP has two interface, one is E0 by 0 and one is E0 by 1. So E0 by 1 is connected with cloud internet. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yes.
cloud you do not have to configure anything on cloud. Okay, on this
Yes.
NAT router, you do not have to configure anything, but on this
Okay.
ISP router you have to configure on this. Okay, and here E0 by 0 you have to configure IP address manually. Okay,
Okay.
okay, then E0 by 0 we have configured IP address. So if you will come here on ISP router R1, so IP interface brief exclude unassigned. So you can see here on E0 by 0, okay, you are getting IP
Yes.
address. Okay,
Okay.
E0 by, okay, not R1, sorry, ISP. Okay, see here on ISP E0 by 1, you are getting IP from DHCP server, okay, for internet
Okay.
access.
Yes.
Okay, and E0 by 0, you have configured the IP address, okay, and
Okay.
after configuring
So
IP
here
address,
it means that in the ISP it means that we have two routers.
ISP,
Yeah, we have
no, to,
ISP and the other one is the cloud.
yes, to run internet in your
The
GNS
I
lab,
Okay.
you have to do like that.
Okay.
Okay, by default, internet will not be running in your lab. Okay, see
Okay. Okay.
your
Okay.
your router, which is virtual routers, now your virtual routers are communicating to Google.
Okay.
Okay, so to do that one, you have to do like this. Okay,
Okay.
and
So
then you
the
have,
ISP that you wrote it, is it the regular router?
yeah, is a router, is router.
Okay, and the other one I should just take the NAT router,
Yes, yes, yes,
not the cloud one,
yes,
and put it on it like this.
yes. And then here on
Okay.
this E0 by 0, you have to configure IP address, whatever IP
Okay.
122.1.1.1, and here, and
Okay.
now you R2, R1, R2, R3, you configure same like that. Okay. Okay,
Okay.
now on
So,
R1, okay,
okay.
R1, what I did after configuring IP address, okay,
Okay.
I have configured Eigrp, right? So in
Yes.
EIGR on R1, I have
You
advertised
you
1,
advertise 1,
1,
3,
12,
13, 12.
and 13, right?
Okay.
Okay, so you do that one. After that, what you have to do on R1, you have to make one.
My main problem is on the ISP.
Okay,
So I want you to remove this one to put it aside, the NAT router,
okay, let me
so that I can see it well.
see. No, that is not NAT router. That is just
A
ISP.
cloud, yeah.
Yes, no, that is just
Okay.
a router. ISP has also
Okay.
routers.
Okay.
Okay, and this is your cloud. This is for internet access. Okay, but
Okay.
don't take
Okay.
this cloud. Okay, this cloud. Don't take this one. You have to take this NAT.
The NAT one. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So
Okay.
this is your ISP, and this is your
Okay.
cloud.
Okay. So,
Okay. So what you have to configure on ISP, I have already written here. But this E0
yes.
by 0 IP, you have to configure manually. Okay, that is not listed here. IP configuration, you already know.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have to configure one default route on R1. Okay, R1, which is
Yes.
your NAT router inside your company. Okay,
Okay.
now why you default route? If you will run this default route, automatically your R1 will be able to communicate to Google. Okay,
Yes.
but okay, and your R1 will not directly communicate to Google. You have to come again. Okay, and you have to run this also on R1. You have to explain about DNS. Okay,
Okay.
so let me write name as a R1, R1, R1. Okay, then your router R1 will be able to access internet. Okay,
Okay.
now second problem will come. Your R1 is able to access internet, but what about your R2 and R3? Even they are EIGRP neighbor. Okay, they won't be able to communicate. So what you have to do? Okay, then you have to say that, okay, no problem, let me configure NAT. Okay,
Okay.
so you have two interface, okay, which is acting as a inside interface, right?
Yes. E0/1 and
Yes,
slash 2.
so you have to say that, okay, okay, interface range. Okay, you have
Yes.
interface interface range E0 by
One
1 dash
dash
2,
two.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then this is, we have already done this one now.
Mm.
Okay, so here you have to say inside and then exit, and then you write here interface E0 by 0 as a outside, right? See,
Yes.
always
Yes.
inside means your LAN interface, okay,
Yes.
and outside means your WAN interface where public IP address is
Okay.
running. Okay, this
Cool.
configuration is done. Then after you have to enable one policy. Which policy? Okay, NAT access policy. Okay,
I think you configured it already.
this one. No, I just kept the command. Sometime,
Okay.
yeah, some
Okay.
I have kept the command, so I'll just show you. I
Okay.
have already copied the command from the. Uh, okay, so we have, see, same
Okay.
command. Commands are same. Whatever we have done, all is same.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
So
okay. Then after that you will check routing table. You will see that only R1 is communicating and R2 and R3 they are not
mhm.
communicating. So you have to say that okay, no problem. Let me give you default routing. Let me share my default
Okay.
routing table with you. So R1 will say,
Okay.
let me
Okay.
share my default routing with you. Okay. And see
Okay.
why R1 is sharing default routing with R2 and R3. R2 is saying that if you want to reach, okay, if
Okay.
you want to reach 12 network, 13 network, no problem, you reach, no problem, okay. But if you won't be able to reach to those IP network which is listed in your routing table, okay, please give
Yes.
me the packet, I will forward.
Okay.
Okay, copy. And now after that R1, R2, R3 everyone will communicate. Now here you can see this is my PC. Which PC? This PC, this one, this window one, okay, this one, which is after router 3. You can say the, so here you have to first check, open your CMD, ping google.com, ncpa.cpl. Only DNS is the problem, but in the organization you have DNS server, okay. Here DNS is not
Yes.
assigned, so no problem. We will configure DNS here, okay. Default gateway, okay, is there, but DNS we can say 12.1.1. Sorry, DNS is 8.8.8.8. Gateway is there, but now we can try one more. 12.1.1.1 is not 12, 13. 13.1.1.1. Okay. In advance, what we can do, gateway, we can add one more gateway, 0.0.0.0. 0 cannot be a gateway. Okay, gateway 13.1.1.1. Now we can try google.com. See, you are pinging to Google, right? Which machine
Yes.
is pinging to Google? This machine. Even if now I think only the problem here on these PC, okay? This is the Linux PC, and here I don't know how to configure. Uh, Let me try. I don't know how to configure DNS. Okay, DNS we should write. question mark bad DNS is 8.8.8.8. Yeah, okay, but we have configured here, and now if you are coming on
Maybe
this,
you should remove the gateway first to see.
hmm, see on this PC it is working, no problem. I will check
Yes.
on the internet how to assign DNS. And now if you are coming
Okay.
here, and if you will check like google.com, so inside your GNS, okay, your internet is working. Okay,
Yes.
see everything is working. Now you can do your lab. So when we will do our security lab, okay, so we will put firewall, and then we can block access of YouTube, Facebook. We'll see all these things, okay.
Okay.
And if you will have, while doing this lab, okay, how to run
Okay.
uh, internet in your GNS3, at that time if you will face any problem, you let me know, okay.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
will
Okay.
access your system remotely, and then we'll see what. But
Cool.
make sure you should do practice, because the people who can
Yes,
run,
sir.
yes, you have to do the lab of this first.
Okay.
Okay, so all command is listed here, okay. Even I will send the picture of this file, okay.
Okay. So what about the software that I talked to you about it? Don't you have any idea about it?
Wait, let me
Okay.
complete this one. Okay, so now we have configured these all things, and you already know that. Let me write one more thing, otherwise you will forget. Note:
Okay.
please configure EIGRP routing between R1, R2, and R3.
That's good.
Right. This is important. It's not that EIGRP is not there and now you are trying. Okay.
Yes.
Now your after that your internet will work. Okay. This
Okay.
IP domain lookup. Okay. This IP domain lookup command you have to run on R3 and R2 as well. Why? Because right now
Okay.
in our network we do not have separate DNS. So if you have separate DNS in, then there is no problem. But right now we do not have
Okay.
separate DNS. That's why we have to configure this on R2
Okay.
and R3, R2 and R3. Okay. So it's very simple. Okay. But part you have to, when you will do practice, then it is simple, right?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. After this, okay, I have written everything here. Okay. Same thing. What is
Okay.
there?
I see.
Okay. After that, this is very much important for the network engineers.
Yep.
Okay. Understand this one.
Bandwidth.
Yeah, yeah. EIGRP, by default, EIGRP utilize 50% bandwidth. Bandwidth means if
Okay.
EIGRP router is sending some EIGRP message, so that is a single link,
Okay.
and that single link will utilize your 50%, because every time hello is there, okay, some other
Mm-hmm.
messages are there, query message is there, update message there. So if EIGRP will utilize 50%, then what about your data?
Yes.
Right. So by default EIGRP is set to use up to 50% of the bandwidth of the interface to exchange routing information. Okay, the IP bandwidth percentage is a command. Okay, so where you can control the amount of bandwidth utilization in EIGRP. Okay,
Okay.
now, but don't think that this can be done with the bandwidth command. No, that is different thing. This IP bandwidth
No.
percentage is different. You know, in on interface there is a different bandwidth, right?
Yes.
Yes, so this is different. You don't think that this is same. Okay, that's why I have written here. Okay, Now, how to do that one is very simple. So mostly uh, people were configuring this percentage command with serial interface. Okay,
Okay.
okay, with serial interface. Okay, so here we have both option. Okay, to configure
Okay.
IPv4 and IPv6. Okay, so we are working with
Okay.
IPv4 lab, so we will configure this one. Okay,
Okay.
okay, so we are configuring this how to reduce the IP bandwidth utilization. So you can say 30% or 20%. Okay, the command is very simple.
Okay.
We will come to the interface. So how many interfaces participating in your EIGRP? So we on R1, if you'll say like E0 by 1 and E0 by 2. So you have to come here conf t interface range E0 by E0 slash 1 dash 2. Okay, and then you have to write here, okay, IP bandwidth percentage, see here EIGRP, your autonomous system number, and then you can say the percentage. Okay, so I will say
Okay.
10% or maybe 20% like this. Very simple. Okay, so this normally we while doing this lab in virtual environment, this is not that much important, but when you are working in the organization, at
Okay.
that time this one is important. Okay,
Okay.
so we are done with the EIGRP. Okay,
Good.
and tomorrow we will be starting our OSPF.
SPF.
Yes.